Angelo in Alaska.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Great to talk to you both. Hey, yeah, I just want to correct you guys on one thing about how great and big Texas is. We got you beat.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Hey,
geographically, you are correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So, at any rate, I am an atheist, and I have wanted to talk to someone about this for a while. There seems to be more of a trend now for people in the, particularly the Christian faith, to be somewhat more accepting of homosexuality. I'm starting to see that more churches are saying things like, "Oh, Jesus didn't have a problem with gays," and et cetera. And that's a kind of a good thing. And at the same time, to me, it's probably not, because they're glossing over the entire statements that are in that book. I don't know how a person who is homosexual could possibly accept a religion that makes a point of calling them an abomination and saying that they're to be put to death. I don't buy this nonsense that there's some sort of new testament or new whatever the hell it is that somehow wipes all of that stuff out of Leviticus and Romans and whatnot.
Well,
because
yeah, I don't.
Their boy Jesus, he basically said that he did not come to wipe anything out, that he in fact was there to enforce the law.
Yeah. I don't buy it either, especially since I don't have the verse at hand here, but there's a passage in Luke that actually suggests that that prohibition on homosexuality is still very much in play for the New Testament. So it's not just based on Old Testament scripture. I agree. And the fact is, whether Christians are more accepting of homosexuality depends very much on the denomination. So, for example, Episcopalians, they've been fine with that for a long time. It's been, no big deal. A lot of the other mainline progressive Protestant religions are on the same page. Catholics are still as homophobic as ever.
Yeah, that's good.
There's different Protestant religions that, kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Most of the fundamentalists are still very anti-gay. And these fundamentalists are the ones that are funding a lot of these they're kind of, they're not legitimate research groups.
Oh, I understand what you're talking about. I didn't want to gloss over the hatred that's still there.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it's something that's baffling to me. I did a couple of interviews at Austin Pride back in, I think, 2009, something like that. And they were really kind of heartbreaking, because one of the interviews I did was with a trans woman who identified as a Christian, and she was part of a local church that it's not like a mainline denomination. It's some kind of church that was specifically for LGBT Christians.
Absolutely baffling.
Yeah,
I just cannot wrap my hand. It's also very much like so many people of color who don't have a problem with the Bible, who embrace it, and they seem to have glossed over completely the passage there in Exodus where they're saying that slavery is an okay thing. You can own a human being. Yeah. And you don't have a problem with that.
Well, but that's outrageous. That's all about indoctrination. And in fact, gay Christians are just as indoctrinated as anybody else. And one of the other interviews that I did there was actually with a young lesbian who admitted that she really didn't believe, but she couldn't come out to her parents as an atheist because she'd already come out as gay, and she just thought that was just too much for them to deal with. That they were finally okay with her being gay, and she couldn't just hit them with the fact that she didn't believe anymore. So I think a lot of people, they find some, community like this LGBT church to belong to, so that, they can be openly gay and at least have that aspect of their life intact without having to have the family drama surrounding coming out as atheist. But the other person that I found really was kind of one of the tragic interviews that I did was with a young gay man who identified as an evangelical Christian. And when I asked him how he could reconcile his sexuality with what it says in the Bible, he said, well, this is my sin, and it's a sin like anything else that people have, whether it's gambling or alcoholism or drug addiction, and it's just something I have to deal with. And, you know, he was basically saying that his God accepts him as a flawed human being. And I thought that was tragic, because it's like no heterosexual person would describe their sexuality as a sin that was imposed on them by a God, that's something they had to overcome.
Right.
So anyway,
I just want to add that
amazing brainwashing there.
Yeah, as my friend Jeff D has said very often, the Bible is the big book of multiple choice.
Yeah,
and you'll find that almost all Christians, first of all, have not thoroughly read the Bible, and second of all, don't have a problem with dismissing individual parts of the Bible that seem inconvenient or wrong to them as, well, it's correct, but it's metaphor or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're a person who believes that your book is the word of your God, then you couldn't possibly do that. So this demonstrates again the hypocrisy.
And yet they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're right to do that, but you're asking how could people do that, and the answer is that we have all kinds of demonstrations about how people rationalize things. You know, your question, I think, is more about how do people manage to rationalize things to themselves than about what the objective meaning of the Bible is, which it is very, very slippery, especially when you're dealing with modern Christians of various denominations.
Yeah.
So it's really more a question about psychology than anything else.
Yeah.
Right, but my question also was, how do you feel as an atheist?
The Bible is garbage. Is that the only?
Yeah.
No. What I was going to say is, how do you deal with people who, on one hand, one view, you can say that they are trying, or at least in some way, moving out of that, where they're at least acknowledging that these prohibitions and whatnot are wrong and evil. They're at least doing that part. Some of them are. But at the same time, they're not going far enough. I guess that was my problem, because I ripped into a guy for this very same thing, and I didn't want to, like, I mean, he obviously was cracking on the whole religious belief. He started to do that, but then when he started in on the homosexual thing and the slavery thing, I just had to rip him. And I'm wondering if maybe I was too hard or too harsh. At the same time, I don't think I was, because I think, you know, if you're going to be a hypocrite, then come out and admit that that's what you're doing.
Well, that really depends a lot. The ability to communicate effectively with a person is not just a matter of always of presenting to them what's straight up true or what's the facts. And you will often find that if you want to know if you were too hard on the person, the real answer to that question can be found in, do I still have a good relationship with that person where I can still talk to them and have influence over what they think? If you drive that person...
And to another extent, I don't care. To another extent, I really don't give a damn. If your mindset is that way, where you're going to just try to rationalize hatred, you understand that the gay community, just 30, 40 years ago, if you were gay, they were putting you into mental institutions and zapping your freaking brain out.
But so, if you don't care what this guy thinks, then you don't have to care how you're communicating with him. And if you want to convince him of something, then you do have to care what he thinks. It can't be both. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you were right or wrong to talk to him a certain way. I'm just saying it depends on the outcome, and the outcome is not always determined by the raw facts of the conversation.
Beautiful. Okay.
Okay. I mean, that's all. Did you have anything else, Jen?
No, okay. I'm good.
All right, thanks for calling. And
hey, thanks. You guys take care.
All right.